3, 2.
We'll get to talking over and over. Hey, and we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from beautiful downtown Blue Ridge. We're at Sycamore Crossing. Now, folks, we're going to be here from 8 to 11 because in that last hour, Broken Bull, New Blue Home and Gift, Kinty, the Peruvian store, Tupelo Tea. We've invited them to all come down and say hello because this is everybody that's come up this morning said, "Are you sure you can't be here in October?" The equipment's very expensive outdoors. It's great here. In fact, I want to thank you very much, and Jane. This is a beautiful location. Our second summer, second season. We never know what that brings in October.
I had to wear a rain coat one time last year at the end of the year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
it was drizzling out there.
A little bit. So anyhow, Dr. Whaley, this is Ask the Doc with Dr. William Whaley, and we want to thank Georgia Cancer Specialist for sponsoring this segment. Dr. Whaley, how are you today?
I'm good. I want to tell you who's got the clout here, though.
Who?
Sam, because she showed up. She got the first cup of Tupelo tea.
Yeah.
I mean,
did you see that also?
Yeah, I did.
I'm looking like, really? Really?
Yeah, here, you've been talking Tupelo tea. You're advertising the place. Sam got the first cup of Tupelo tea. That's awful, isn't it?
Tom is here already this morning, bringing out Tupelo tea. We're going to have one on the set.
He's competing with a Budweiser man.
Yeah, it's an early delivery. Our crowd are early drinkers.
Yeah, probably have an early train whistle.
Folks. It's a party. We're having fun. We got some apples, some cider. Come down and meet everybody. I'd like for you to come down if you want to meet Sam, Rose, Richie, Lisa, myself, and we're going to have a lot of yipping and barking.
Yes, sir.
The Humane Society of Blue Ridge is coming down with everybody.
Yeah, it's not going to be just pet of the week.
No, it's going to be yipping and barking. And
that's
Pets
of the week.
That's not Rick and Bruce.
Yeah, right. Pets of the week.
Dr. Whaley, how are you? What do you have for us this morning?
Well, you want to talk about you want to talk about linking arms and standing, or you want to talk about kneeling, or you want to talk about white privilege?
All. I've taken all for 300, Alex.
Well, they're all linked. I hate to tell you. I think what I heard about Tom Price yesterday made me mad.
Excuse me. Make sure his mic is extra high there.
Yeah, I can talk. I can talk louder. I said what I heard.
What you heard about Tom Price?
I heard about, not about what Tom did. Well, people were commenting about it. Yes, Tom made a judgment call that was wrong. It was immediately after he had missed an event because of an airport delay at LaGuardia, which is always got an airport delay, and he was unable to make an important event. And his staff said this doesn't work. And they began to sign him up for NetJets or whatever one he was using. And I think maybe he could have gone back and flown. He could have driven to Philadelphia. But anyway, so whatever he did, he needs to get his hand slapped, and whatever comes of that.
They can turn that around without having to dismiss the guy.
Yeah, that's right. But exactly. What I was offended by, the guy made a mistake. He said, "I made a mistake. I'm going to write you a check. Spank me, flagellate me. I'll write on the blackboard 100 times." But yesterday, I heard a comment that this was just another example of white privilege, that even a relatively common guy everybody else that's up there that's flying airplanes, as you know, the Secretary of Education and all the rest of them are super rich, and they're flying on either their own planes or they're renting NetJets, and they're paying everything above the cost of a commercial ticket. And they turned around and made it an indictment of everybody in the Trump administration that's not a minority, that they're abusing the system because of white privilege. And that just made me angry. And I sat around there thinking about those guys kneeling on the sidelines. It started out as this is a protest against the flag, and then once they realized that wasn't selling real well to the fans, they turned it around to white privilege and every other anti-Trump and everything else they wanted to do. And the whole thing makes me mad.
Well, there's and I'm pretty sure, I don't want to get it wrong, but I think it's a police officer, happens to be black police officer, African American, no offense, that has done a video that served, I'm going to say 3 tours or whatever, but this video is going around, and this gentleman is looking at the camera and saying, when you play a game, When you're done, you go home to your family. When we go, it's not playing a game, and there's no guarantee we're coming home to our family. You know, so
I saw the video.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
But there's so many of those examples out there. You know, find some. Hey, I believe in peaceful protest. Fine, okay. You know, okay. Disagree, but you know, I was always told there's a time and place for everything. That's just not the time.
Well,
that's not the place.
Did you see the email I sent you yesterday? That was a picture of about 50 flag-draped coffins. That actually is a Vietnam picture. 50 flag-draped coffins, and then 2 black Marines there standing, just adjusting the flag. And they said, "Well, tell us which ones of these people in these coffins are black, and then maybe we'll take the flag off." I mean, it's just the public's not standing for it, and I'm happy to see it.
When you see 50 coffins draped in a flag, you don't know inside if that's black, white, Asian, no matter what, no religion, nothing.
No, but they're more likely to be relatively poor white, black or Hispanic, than they are to be NFL athletes. Anyhow, that's enough of that.
I understand. Well, right. You said that you want to go
here and here. But all of them were tied together there.
You got to explain your shirt.
Okay, well, my wife is running for city council, and she's being beaten up badly by the machine over residents, and this is her, Jane Whaley, running for city council shirt. She'll be down here a little bit later for your party. The privileged people that get the Tupelo tea first also are wearing their shirts, so maybe if you were wearing a shirt like Sam, you'd be able to get the tea early.
Oh, that's what it was?
That's what it was. It was a Jane Whaley shirt.
I won't get that wrong next time. That'll never happen again.
All right.
Dr. Whaley, let's go into a couple questions now. I have the first one. If I have a circular ring which appears on my arm, could it indicate Lyme disease? And are these particular symptoms which indicate the disease, and are the type ticks which cause the disease in our North Georgia area?
Well, the answer to the question is yes, 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 and yes. Can you put up a picture of that skin lesion there?
It will appear to your left.
Okay, well, so over here to my left then, there is a typical lesion that is called erythema migrans. And that is a very classic picture of a early post-bite Lyme disease skin condition. Now, here are the things that we're going to talk about. We'll talk about them in pretty much detail today, because I think this is a very important topic. We've discussed it, I think, back in the spring when we were talking about mosquitoes and ticks. But first of all, the tick has to be on you for 48 hours, not removed, before he can inject this organism that causes Lyme disease. So if you are outdoors in the weeds and stuff, and you come in the house and you do what they call a tick check, meaning that you get in the bath and you bathe, and then any of them that are walking around on your skin will be washed away. You take the clothing that you were wearing off and you put it in the dryer, and you turn the dryer on high for 8 minutes. Then the ticks that are in the cuff of your pants, or you haven't thought about this, have you? Cuff of your pants or in the collar or somewhere hiding in your clothing that can get loose and get around the house, they're killed by a dryer in 4 to 5 minutes at high heat. Now, if you put a wet towel in there, it takes 50 minutes. So they go in there by themselves, hot heat, you take a bath, and then you get your family to look in your hair and everywhere. And if you get the tick off of you in less than 48 hours, really you ought to get them off right away, you don't want a tick on you, then you can't get Lyme disease. Now let's just imagine then that you live in a Lyme vulnerable area, and if you'll show that map, you'll notice that the blue states are where the blue spots are worse than anywhere else, and that this is really a disease that is most common in New England. Connecticut, I think, is the worst states. You'll notice all of them are in the mid-Atlantic and north. And the spots in Georgia, you just see a few spots in Georgia down there, don't you, in our part of the country? So the real blue part of it is up in the north and the northeast. But indeed, we do have it. Now, so you come in the house, you got that rash. There's really a second rash picture, but that's a good enough one. It's a classic rash. It's a big red circle. It's not just the little spots everywhere. But Lyme is a real serious condition, because once that thing's been on there for 48 hours, you've only got about 10 days to 3 weeks. Now, you got a pretty good time, 10 days to 3 weeks to get treated, and the treatment is specific. It's 10 days to 3 weeks of a specific set of antibiotics. And if you don't recognize that tick bite immediately within that 3-week period and get treated, then Lyme disease comes on over a period of 6 months or longer. And it can cause meningitis, heart failure, arthritis, and then from that point on, it's a serious chronic illness. It lasts for quite a while. And taking antibiotics 3 or 6 months after the bite can eradicate the organism, but then you've got an autoimmune disease, kind of like rheumatoid arthritis, and it's as serious as a train wreck. So going back to it, yes, the rash and the lesion, it's not just a little, I had a skin rash over here and I was out in the woods last week. That's not Lyme disease. But if you have the bite and you have anything like that, there's no blood test that'll help, because it's just like if you take a tetanus shot in this arm and you draw a blood test over here for the tetanus antibody, it's negative. It takes 3 or 4 weeks for the antibody to tetanus to begin to build up. That's the reason that screening blood for HIV isn't foolproof protection of the blood supply against HIV. And that's why they take the history. If you had a prison tattoo or anything, in the last 3 weeks, they won't take it. So anyway, you can't do a blood test. So if you've been in a tick-prone area, you've got a rash or a bite that's similar to that or suspicious, it's safer to take 10 days to 3 weeks of the antibiotic than it is to wait a couple of months, get the antibody, and then risk a sickness for quite a while. Go ahead.
Sorry,
all right, I was going to say, this tick is carried by deer and carried by rodents. Well, I mean, we got plenty of deer around here. They're eating the flowers in our garden, and we got plenty of rodents, whether they're squirrels or whether they're rats or whatever. So the vehicle to carry the tick is everywhere in these North Georgia mountains. And the prevention is, as I said, first go in the house and get the stuff off. But if you are using the right kind of repellent, which we said earlier in the year, if you have DEET, Promethean, and Consumer Reports and some of those things will tell you which ones will actually repel that tick and repel the Zika mosquito, then you've protected yourself against both. So it's clothing protection, long sleeves, a hat, stuff, DEET type repellent. And then when you come in from having gone hunting or turkey hunting or whatever else it is you do, then you actually get buck naked and you get yourself a tick check, and your clothes go in the dryer. And the good old boys up here don't think about that very much, and I hope Mama's listening and tells those kids when they come in to put the clothes in the dryer. There.
Would you mind if I got my tea? I mean, Tom, thank you.
The
so
reason
much.
you didn't get the tea is you're not wearing the Jane Whaley T-shirt. Everybody in the Jane Whaley T-shirt got their tea first. All right.
Wait a minute, I'm checking. Because, I tell him? I said, I'm in a good mood.
Yeah, and you gave him
a
specific order.
It's got latte.
And warm, you said.
It's not so sweet
that you think it's dessert. Now we just kicked the
You got
camera,
it.
so
You
he's
got-
focusing.
You got it.
He's focusing.
I love to always go into
He's
Tupelo
focusing
tea.
down
They've
on
got
that
a-
fancy blue cup.
Well, they've got a great staff in there. Every Friday I go in there, and I always, instead of just picking a tea out, I'll give them my mood and everything. And it's a sunshiny day. I just always have so
where's
much
the
fun in there.
mandolin?
And I'll say, surprise me. So, okay, we got our second
Where's the
question.
mandolin?
And I have my tea. What?
Where's the Tupelo tea mandolin?
I don't know.
All right, go ahead.
Can chocolate be good for your health?
Yes.
It's good for your health.
Does anybody want more than that?
Oh, okay.
Can it be good for your health? I thought that was the question. Yes or no?
Well, I'm always used to you saying yes.
But-
And then...
All right.
Well, no, wait. The last question you said yes, 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 and yes.
Yeah.
I was-
All right. So we'll go back into this. As my wife says, ask Bill Whaley what time it is, and he'll tell you how to build a watch. So, in that fashion, here you go. Chocolate is just like caffeine in coffee. Dark chocolate that hasn't been processed to death has antioxidant properties. And since you are substantially younger than I, you're still old enough to have watched the pendulum with coffee to where this is terrible and it's going to cause you to have pancreatic cancer, to where this is pretty good and it's going to help you prevent pancreatic cancer, and where it's going to cause you to have heart disease, and then where it's going to help protect you against some of the things that cause heart disease because of its antioxidant properties. That's the city sheriff trying to drown us out, I think. If you like that, that was funny. Okay. So, yes, as a serving of dark chocolate is just like a serving of coffee, except most of the time the chocolate's been made too sweet so it tastes like dessert. It's got sugar in it, and then you got all the adverse effects of the calories in the sugar. But the thing about chocolate is you can't condemn it as being bad for you, and dark chocolate in moderation or in small amounts is an antioxidant.
Our last question this morning, are there signs, symptoms to indicate when to seek medical help for stress?
You know, that question is one that really is extremely, extremely important. I don't think that Christopher Columbus or Galileo or Leonardo da Vinci or anybody else would have done what they did if they were not stressed, sort of, to investigate. We come back later.
They have completed the beer delivery in Blue Ridge. Budweiser.
Yeah.
There's plenty of Budweiser for Saturday
Yeah.
here in Blue Ridge, Friday night and Saturday.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Y'all come back and see us now. You hear? Now, does that mean anything to you?
What?
Y'all come back and see us now. You hear? Does anybody have? Does anybody remember what that means? Y'all. Yes, he did. But where did he get it? Welcome South, brother. What is that? That's the call signs of the first radio station in the southeastern United States and the most powerful radio station in America for decades, WSB. And the original guy on the radio, when it was about 8 or 9 hours a day or less of radio, his thing was Welcome South, brother. And then at the end of the program, he'd say, y'all come back and see us now, you hear. So that goes back to the 1920s, and a guy in the entertainment business in the South ought to know it. So let's go back to stress.
Well, wait a minute. Now, I'm glad you did that, because they always say that I'm the one that sees
Budweiser truck?
Yeah, and gets sidetracked. Okay. Okay, let's get back to the stress question.
Stress is a really great thing.
But here's, I was picking up before we started talking about Budweiser and y'all come back and see us. The Galileo and the people that you named, that if there wasn't a level of stress, or seemed like if they didn't have, that's who they. So,
okay,
take off on that.
Okay, let's use the reaction that everybody's heard: fright or flight. So when you are getting ready to play a sport, your pulse rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up. You become a little more alert as your adrenal gland puts out epinephrine. And if you are in a battle and you're getting ready to get sliced by a sword, what happens under epinephrine is that your vessels constrict so that if the animal bites you on the fanny, you don't bleed so bad. So all of those stress reactions are beneficial in the proper place. So it's a good thing to have an increased heart rate, hypervigilance, and so forth. Now, when people are stressed, they become 4.5% of adult Americans have stress at a level called, 0 is no pain, 10 is big pain. On that on the stress level, above 5, you've got some issues. But there's about 5% of people, 4.6% of people actually, that are stressed at the level of 5 or above. And much of that, particularly a few years ago, would have been over economics. You got a kid that's not doing well in school, job stress, school stress. Well, when you're behind on getting your paper written and you're in college and you stay up all night, that stress is good for you. When you're just, a housewife taking care of your kids, or you're a guy on TV and your stomach's churning and you're trembly and you can't sleep at night, and then you get high blood pressure, you get heart disease. You've heard people that say, if I don't get out of this job, I'm going to have an ulcer. Well, we can go down to the drugstore and take Pepsid or something over the counter that can stop that. But that is a stress reaction that if you don't do something about it, eats a hole in your stomach. And when it eats a hole in your stomach and you vomit blood, you're dead. So you can't minimize the aspect that emotional turmoil and in a high amount for a prolonged period of time in an unhealthy situation has adverse effects. So, muscle contraction, tension, headache, if it interferes with your functioning, it's time to go see your family doctor. If your blood pressure is elevated and you're hyper enough for it to be above 130/80 to interfere with the quality of your life or your relationship with your peers, it's time to go see the doctor. Now, if you're sitting here and the internet doesn't work up there and you're, that stress, that's perfectly healthy. I mean, you need to react to it. So you really have to be a pretty good steward of your own self, or have support system around you that can say your behavior has reached the point where it's interfering with our family life, or with your relationship, or with your job, or your symptoms of, panic and heart rate and breathing are abnormal. Go see a doc. So it's kind of hard to say what symptoms should drive you to the doctor, but it's in that whole spectrum of anger and hypervigilance and so forth that the spectrum of stress is.
Well, I'm glad this question is here because, I think if people have watched the show in the past, there's a level intense. I get a little intense, maybe to get wound up. I have gotten text messages, settle down, you're going to have a heart attack.
Yes, that's right, yeah. But see, that's all good.
I'm enjoying it.
That's good.
I
that's
enjoy
that's
that.
Good. Yeah, it's good.
But on the other side, for those that don't know me because they hear me talk, I go home in the evenings. When I go home in the evenings, I'll go outside. It's nice, beautiful North Georgia mountains, and I'll put my computer up there, and I'll get a cigar. Sorry, folks, kids, don't try that at home. I'll get a cigar, and I actually can get myself in a very relaxed state. I mean, I'm still reading and things like that, but I can bring myself. And Lisa will tell you when I come in from there, it's usually a lot different than when I went out. When I go out there, I might be like stressed up, but when I come in, it's a little different.
Good. All right, so now we're going to talk about stress reduction, because you just brought up the stress reduction. I used to, obviously as a house officer in training, we were on duty 36 hours, off 12, 365 days a year. We had 5 days off. So that's 126 hours a week you work. I used to manage my stress. It would be the middle of the night at Grady, midnight, and I would go out and run 6 or 8 miles. So exercise burns up the adrenaline and helps with stress reduction. And for certain personalities like mine, it's a great way to work. Now, you go over to my wife, Jane. Jane's a very religious woman, and she spends time every morning in her Bible, and she prays and a lot. You could say that meditation, but you can learn by meditation or by breathing techniques, let's say yoga, you can pray, you can get into the Bible. That all is very acceptable stress reduction. There is a thing called biofeedback. You've heard about that. When you take a lie detector test, they put a thing on your finger to measure your skin resistance. They measure your breathing. They measure your blood pressure. They measure your heart rate. In other words, these are physiologic measures. And they ask you, what's your name, where'd you go to high school, what's the name of your first animal, and did you steal that money, or did you photograph those documents or something? So they are measuring physiologic stress things when they do a lie detector test. Well, what they teach this in the CIA and teach in various intelligence services is biofeedback, just like a spy movie really, where you can block the physiologic manifestations of stress so that you can beat the lie detector. And if you just go to watch the movie about our sniper who got, my mind went blank on the name of the guy who yeah, Chris Kyle. If you watch that movie, you will remember that snipers in the field can be in a position covered with a ghillie suit for 30 hours, 40 hours without ever moving. They've got a camelback on their back to suck stuff, and they do their business as it is in their clothing. That's why what they call going commando means not wearing any underwear, because they are going to do their business in their clothing. They don't wear underwear. And they have to be able to lower their pulse rate and lower their blood pressure when they're getting ready to squeeze the trigger, because they're shooting a mile away, and they learn to suppress that. Well, those kind of guys are under a great deal of stress, and they learn how to overcome it by learning those techniques. So yours is the backyard with the book and the cigar. Mine is still exercising and the cigar and the book. And other people can be biofeedback or yoga or prayer or whatever.
You know, Dr. Whaley, this has been a really good summer here.
Thanks.
We've had a lot of fun. The show is growing every week, every day. We want to thank you. Now, I don't want to make it sound like this is over, because we're going to be over at Blue Jeans, and we're going to have that terrible odor of pizza in the morning. Right? It's a terrible odor,
I remember I said that the first or second week we were in there, it reminds me of that line from Apocalypse Now. There's no smell like napalm in the morning.
Well, I think what we should do is I think it should be a tradition. We should do back-to-back parties. So, like, this is the party for the last time we're going to be outside until spring. And then next week we should have a pizza party to celebrate moving the show. I could come up with a reason to have a party every week.
You think maybe he'll make some of those things with the pizza dough that he rolled up in the sugar or something that time?
Yeah.
Whatever those were. I don't know what you
know
call
what?
them.
You always tell me like 4 things I really need to know, and then you just slip in one thing I don't know if I needed to know.
What was that?
Commando, I didn't need to
know. You didn't need.
Yeah, you always slip in just one thing. I don't know if I
Oh, well, that you've heard of going commando.
Yes,
I mean, it's
did.
got to have
Don't
a
tell me
reason.
again.
That's what it means. That's what it means. Did you know that?
I did. But usually girls.
Huh? Okay, you did know that.
Stay over there.
Did you know
You're
why?
up next.
Why the word commando?
We've already have some yipping from the audience.
My dad was in Vietnam.
Okay, well, that's anyway.
Dr. Whaley, before
we
we leave, because we're really not pressed for time this morning, we're having a lot of fun. Before we leave, is there anything else medically or anything going on that any of these studies or anything medically that you'd like to discuss?
I'd like to say yesterday I wore my flag tie, and I wore a white shirt. You know, and I don't wear white shirts a lot anymore, but I wore that yesterday because they were having that forum last night about running for office. And they had one in Atlanta yesterday also, running for mayor. And they had like 13 or 14, how many they had down there. And that was done all with great, if you read about it or you watch the little clips that were on the news last night, everybody was courteous to one another. The crowd was well behaved. The crowd here at the Fannin High School was for different candidates. They were all well behaved. The candidates, a lot of candidates didn't show. You were going to talk about that later. But the ones that were there dealt with one another on a very cordial and good plane. And then you see those idiots at the football game and stuff. And I actually wore that tie yesterday because I knew that this was going to be American democracy at work, and it was going to be pretty to watch. And you got every bit of it on tape, and I guess you're going to show it, or you showed it live last night. Yes. And you'll probably get some clips and show those. But everybody behaved like people ought to behave, didn't they?
Yes, they did. They enjoyed their candidate. They applauded when they heard solutions or a candidate's position, but it was very orderly. And I couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
It was,
well, that's why I wore
it was coming out and hearing the candidate so you could get the most information to go vote. That's
right.
what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah, and that's why I wore my white shirt and my flag tie yesterday. I wore it really in honor of the process of running for office and having a democratic process. And I know that our Congress is screwed up. They can't agree on anything. And, the city council screwed up, everything's screwed up. But yesterday, everybody behaved really well, and that's why I wore it. I knew it was going to be good.
Even I behaved.
You were in a Fannin High School football jersey, whether you remember it or not.
Oh, I got my
know.
jersey.
I just tell you, you were wearing your flag yesterday
for
your own reason.
I was wearing my Fannin jersey.
Fannin jersey, and I dressed that way yesterday with that in mind, and I thought that the process worked, and it worked in Atlanta yesterday too, with a lot of different types of people running for office. I happen to know one of them fairly well, but it was reassuring to me. The system works, and we're going to be okay.
Thank you, Dr. Whaley, and also thank you, Georgia Cancer Specialist, for sponsoring this segment every Friday morning with Ask the Doc, Dr. William Whaley. If you ever have a question for Dr. Whaley, you could send that to Chief, CHIEF, right? I got that right. I messed those I's and E's. So Chief at FetchYourNews.com.
I before E, except after
exactly,
C.
right?
Yeah.
Chief at FetchYourNews.com. Send that to us, or info, I-N-F-O, at FetchYourNews.com. If you ever had, just put in the top of the subject, Ask the Doc, and we'll get it and put it on the show. Now, don't forget, next week, same time. Can't say same place, though.
Same time, same station.
Same station. Different place, Blue Jeans, but Dr. Whaley will be back with us. Thank you very much, sir. Right. And we enjoyed the summer, and it's been a great season.
Yep. Y'all come back and see us now, you hear?